chapter 16 is probably more familiar to us because of the way the chapter concludes, and because of that, when we think of primarily the case of the rich man and Lazarus, then we're apt to overlook the significance with which this chapter begins. And it does begin with a parable that the possibility exists that it is one of the least studied and thus the least understood of the parables. You know, I call on one occasion the disciples of Jesus asked him, "What you doing teaching these people in parables for?" And of course, the way that Jesus responded was he spoke in parables to reveal the truth to the friends of truth and to conceal the truth from the enemies of truth. Now, that's an amazing thing. That teaching in this fashion would have that diametrically opposed result. But yet it was the heart condition of the individual who chose to either see, and have one of those light bulb go in your head moments, or, what's he talking about? Exact same teaching. But the heart condition was made obvious by how they responded or failed to respond to the teaching of the parables. Parabole, alongside, and what would you think the word balo would have to do with? Yeah, you guessed it. To throw. To throw. Alongside, to throw. That's what a parable is. It is a story that is thrown along beside for the purpose of getting a point significantly across. And usually when you have parables, regardless of how long a parable might be, there is generally one primary point that Jesus is trying to get across. And, of course, that leads to us needing to reconsider the possibility of always having 3-point lessons. If Jesus, the master teacher, only had 1-point lessons, then maybe we need to back off from a couple of those and leave them out and try to simply get 1 point across. Because if indeed it is the case that only 1 point is going to be carried with people, then the other 2 points are wasted. Well, hopefully that's not the case, but sometimes there's no doubt that it is. The parables were for the express purpose of teaching by this means and exposing what heaven had to offer by way of illustration and living in harmony with God's will. And when we look at all the parables, which will be a whole quarter here before too much longer in our Engraving Heavenly Truths programs, then we will see, in fact, most of the parables in that study. But notice this parable. It is not one that rings a bell like a sower went forth to sow. It doesn't start like that. It doesn't even begin with, here was a man who was a dealer in precious pearls. No. It's different than that. And what he tells is a very sad situation that existed to get across this main point. Notice as it begins. There was a certain rich man that had a steward. Now, while we all are stewards, which simply means nobody owns anything. Somebody says, "Well, you can't say that. Well, you don't know. You have not seen my safety deposit box and all the pieces of property." Nobody owns anything. We just use it while we're here. And we'll have to give an account one of these days as to how well we have performed this function of a steward, of taking care of that which has been placed under our watch care. Now, friends, that goes with our house, it goes with the car, it goes with our property, it goes with our wife and our kids. We're stewards. And all things included in that amount are things over which we must one day give an account. There's a fellow on the radio, that not now, but for some unknown reason to me, he comes on at a time. It's almost impossible for me to find a time to listen to him, especially on this side of the mountain and very close to the mountain. I can't get an AM station to come across the mountain to my house. But he has this little dealie that he says on his radio program. He says, "With talent on loan from God." And everybody says, "That braggart. Well, who does he think he is? He's telling the truth. And while he may be saying it in a way that turns people's stomach, especially if they cannot stand the truth that he sets forth, we all, if we have any talent at all, it is on loan from God. Do you think you deserve the abilities that you've got? Do you think I deserve this one ability that I used to have? Well, of course not. What we have is on loan from God. One of these days we'll stand before the judgment seat of Christ and we will give an account as to how we have performed in this function of steward. Well, it just so happens that here is a rich man who has a steward. Here is a trusted overseer of ever how large this man's estate is. But the accusation is made that this steward has been dishonest. He's been taking liberties in his position that he's not supposed to be taking as a trusted steward. And the rich man gets wind of it, and he considers the possibility that these accusations that he's hearing may be true. And so he calls the man in. He says, tell me what's going on here. Let's see the disbursements. Let's see the receipt. Let's see the books. Because if indeed it is the case that this which I've heard of you is true, then you are fixing to lose your job. Well, he wasn't ready for that day. And so the steward begins to think, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm fixing to lose this job. I should have been more careful. I should have made sure that nobody else found out about how dishonest I was being when my master's good. I shouldn't have been throwing all those parties and charging it to my master. I should have been... Who knows why and how he was being dishonest, but obviously he was being dishonest and he's caught. What's he going to do? And he begins to think of some possibilities. He says, well, I can't dig. Now, read what he means when he says that. I think that what he's saying there is that his hands will not hold a shovel or a hoe. He just couldn't see himself doing manual labor. Are you kidding me? Well, this man has not had a shovel in his hand maybe ever. He's had a fine job that he didn't even have to even clean out from under his fingernails. He's had it made all this time, and he said, I cannot dig. Manual labor is simply not something I'm going to do. And then he makes another astounding statement. He says, and to beg, I am ashamed. Now, wait a minute. You're fixing to lose your job because you've been dishonest, but you're too proud to beg? Isn't it amazing the way people will think? It doesn't bother him to take advantage of his position. It doesn't bother him to be cheating his boss. But it does bother him to have to beg. And then he has a brainstorm. He says, I know what I'll do, that when I am, this verse 4, that when I am put out of the stewardship, they, notice that operative term there, they may receive me into their houses. Now, the they is going to figure prominently into the plans that this steward has. Who are the they? Well, we don't have to guess because the next verse identifies them. So he calls every one of his Lord's debtors to him. Now, this is a common procedure that's followed even in our day. Say here's a rich man that has so many acres of ground that there's absolutely no way that he and his little small family is able to take in all the money that could be the result of sowing all these acres and corn and hay and soybeans and all. And so what he ends up doing, he leases out various portions of this estate for the use of somebody else. And then the people who are leasing his property, then they have to pay a percentage to the owner of the estate. And so it's these guys that this man has his eye on. What does he say? He says, well, how much do you owe to my master? And the first one said, I owe him 100 measures of oil. 100 measures of oil. He says, sit down. It is your lucky day, blue light special, 50% off. You better jump on this deal. Right 50. And then he calls another debtor of his master in. He says, now how much do you owe? He says, 100 measures of wheat. It's your lucky day, young man. 20% off for you. Right 80 or 80. Let me ask you something. Do you think that there might be a likelihood that one of these two fellers might have a job for this guy when he loses his job he's fixing to lose because he's a crook? Probably. Is it that old adage of you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours operative all the way back here in the days of Jesus? Yeah. Is it right? Oh, of course not. But that's just the way the world works, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, here's a guy who's being let go of his job for being a crook, and so the person that's going to be benefited by his continuing to be a crook is the person that's going to hire him. How long do you think it'll be before he takes advantage of that position? Well, it don't matter as long as he's he's giving me a break here. 50% off. I've got to give him a job. And right in the middle of all this planning that this dishonest steward is doing, his Lord, the owner of this whole estate, finds out about it. And what's amazing is what is said in this verse number 8, when the Lord finds out about it. Notice. And the Lord commended the unjust steward. That has got to be a typographical error. Now, my Bible says commended, but y'all's Bible probably says condemned, right? No, I dare say it says commended too. Now, wait a minute. Here's a fella who is fixing to throw out on his ear a trusted steward for being a crook, and now this guy is taking advantage of his position right up to the very end, and the master finds out about it, and he commends him? Well, why does he commend him? He commends him because he has done wisely. For who? For himself. Wisely for his master? Oh, no. No, not for his master. But for himself, he knows just exactly what he wants. And there is absolutely nothing going to stand in his way against him. And then the next thing that the Lord says here is where the rubber actually meets the road. For the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of light. And implied there, of course, is in their generation. Now, wait a minute. The children of this world are wiser than the children of light. I bet that's going to have some bearing on us. You think? It might. This man is the very personification of a child of the world. He's the spitting image of what the child of the world is. He doesn't care anything about God. He's not concerned with eternity. He don't care about heaven or hell or anything like that. What he's concerned about is keeping on in his position of not having to work that hard and keep on taking advantage of people and have enough to get by on. He knows what he wants, and nothing's going to interfere with him getting it. He's a child of the world. In contrast with these individuals that Jesus identifies as the children of light. And implied is the children of light in their generation don't have near as much on the ball as do the children of this world do have on the ball. Now, surely the Lord is not really making a point that would have deep-seated results as far as us applying it to ourselves, would He? Think about it. Do you know people who have a clear focus of what they want to accomplish in life, and there is absolutely nothing that will knock them off stride of accomplishing what they want, they'll run over whoever they've got to run over to get it. It don't matter. They'll stay up late at night, scheming, conniving. They'll get up early in the morning and start again, scheming and conniving, to get ahead and to accomplish what they want to accomplish. Now, if it means they've got to bend the law and break the law and scratch my back and I'll scratch yours and all that kind of, that don't matter, because they know what they want. And this man that we have pictured for us here is the very spitting image of that guy. He has initiative. He has planning abilities. He knows what he wants. Now, wait a minute, though. Jesus said people like that are wiser in pursuit of what they're after than are the children of light in pursuit of what they're after. And if it was not for that life statement that Jesus makes, then this would be a nice little joke. But when he makes an application to the children of light, then it goes a whole lot deeper than that. A child of the world. I worked in a boiler shop, as I've told most of you before, for nearly 8 years. And in that boiler shop, after you'd been in that boiler shop for 15 years, then you built up to 4 weeks of paid vacation. Well, there was an old boy that worked in that same shop that had worked in there for 37 years and had never taken a vacation. Get this. He had never missed a day. Never. Never even a part of a day. He looked upon those paid vacation days as double time. I saw this man so sick one day that he literally crawled to the bathhouse and crawled in a stall and locked the door until the going home whistle blew so that he would not be forced to go home before his time. And when it came time for him to retire, he had it figured down to the very minute. And he retired at a 15 after 2 on a Thursday afternoon. Because that was the time when he would accomplish, gain the most money for his retirement. Now, we ain't call a person like that. Well, that's a model employee. Yeah, I mean, everybody wishes they had somebody they can depend on like that. Well, their plans and desires is to be there when the doors were open. You could depend on him to be there. And the job that he had needed a dependable person on it. And he was always there. You know, the Bible pictures people just like that too. As a matter of fact, in Luke chapter 12, there's 2 brothers. One is trying to get Jesus to involve himself in a squabble over an inheritance. And Jesus says, well, you have courts to take care of matters like that. But, he says this in verse 15, take heed and beware of covetousness. For a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesses. Ooh. Well, if there ever was anything that was absolutely contrary to the American way of life, then that'd be right there, wouldn't it? A man's life consisteth in the abundance of the things which he possesses. I mean, that's what we're told from when we get up in the morning till we go to bed at night. We've got to have this. We've got to drive this. We've got to do this. We've got to wear this. We've got to eat this. We've got to... Constantly. But Jesus said the very opposite. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of the things that he possesses. And then he gave a picture. I mean, a picture of a fellow a whole lot like that guy that I work with. He had little old puny barns, could not even put all the crop that he brought in that year in those little puny barns, and so he broke those puny barns down and built bigger barns so that he might bestow all his goods. And if he was living today, he would have been on the front page of Progressive Farmer magazine riding his big old tractor, probably plowing about 32 rows at a time. Yeah. And yet the Lord said, this night thy soul shall be required of thee, and then who's going to get all this stuff that you've got, Mr. Rich Man? Called him a fool. But wait a minute. I mean, that's the kind of person you want working for you, isn't it? I mean, there's a farmer who's got it all together. He knows what he wants. He wants to bring in as large a crop as he possibly can. And so is he that is rich towards himself, but is not rich towards God. He's fool. Man. Maybe Jesus knew what he was talking about when he said the people of this world in their generation are wiser than the children of light are in pursuit of their goals. Was Jesus serious? You know anybody else that maybe got an idea of what they want and nothing will stand in their way? I say, for example, and I used to love to play golf before I got broke down where I can't even play ping pong anymore hardly. But have you ever known anybody that got so disgusted with their golf game that they actually took their clubs and threw them in the middle of the lake? That only happens on commercials. Nobody does that. Someone will go out every Saturday morning. They'll lose 24 balls on the first 9 holes. Do they get upset with their pitiful golf game? No. They start watching videos. They might even take golfing lessons. They might buy a new set of clubs. They'll do anything and everything they can to salvage your golf game. Why? Because they want to play golf. That's why. Same thing goes for fishing, rabbit hunting, deer hunting, you name it. There is absolutely nothing that will keep us from doing what we really do want to do. Nothing. Nobody and nothing will keep us from doing it. So Jesus must have knew what he was talking about when he said, the children of this world are wiser in pursuit of their goals than are the children of light in pursuit of their goals. Well, who's these children of light, folks? Well, we have some indication from right after the Beatitudes in Matthew chapter 5, because in verse 13, Jesus said this, Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt hath lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It's henceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and trodden under the foot of men. Ye are the light of the world. There's light. The light of the world, a city that is set on a hill cannot be hid, and neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, that it may give light to all that's in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Children of light has to be citizens of the kingdom of God. That's who Jesus is talking about right here. We've been called out of darkness into his marvelous light. So says Peter in 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 9. That's this chosen generation, royal priesthood. I mean, that's the Lord's people. That's the Lord's church. So could it be that the Lord is actually saying that people in the world, in pursuit of their goals, in pursuit of their hobbies, in pursuit of whatever their desire is, they have more initiative. They are willing to sacrifice more. They have more get up and go to them, more motivation than do the children of God in pursuit of their goals? What's the goal of a Christian? Heaven. You mean to tell me that people have more initiative when it comes to being able to catch a fish than they do going to heaven? I mean, even if the Lord had not have said it, we could say it, couldn't we? Well, sure. I mean, I've seen people backed up for 2 hours just to get their boat in to fish. Do they get sitting? Oh, I'm not sitting around here any longer. I'll take my boat and I'll go home. Are you kidding me? They'll sit there 3 hours to get their boat in to fish. Or they'll sit there 3 hours in the rain until it's time to hit their golf ball. But don't let the preacher go 5 minutes over his 30-minute allotted time or we're ready to go fish and play golf. Right? It's interesting that Jesus even addressed that little matter too in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 6. When he said in verse 19, Lay not up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But rather, lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves simply cannot get through and steal. And then he says, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Where's your heart? Well, I know this is exactly where it is. It's where your treasure is. It's where you value the most. Where's your heart? I asked a question one time. If you could be anywhere that you wanted to be, anywhere in all the world that you wanted to be, where would it be? You know. And I came up with some possibilities. Would you be riding across the monorail into the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World? Would you be out in the middle of a lake, brisk, cool morning with Bill Dance fishing for huge fish? You know, would you be teeing off at Augusta National with Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods and Arnold Palmer? You know, would you be fixing to go to a family reunion and you don't even have to cook or wash dishes? You know, and you're going to be seeing people that you haven't seen in 25 years. Where would you be? Where would you be? If you could be anywhere in all the world right now, where would you be? And the fact is, friends and brethren, that if we had rather be anywhere else other than worshiping God on the first day of the week, then we might as well be there. Because where your treasure is, there's where your heart will be. And if our heart is not deeply embedded in our worship and work together, then it's not in the right place. Matter of fact, this old boy here is crooked and dishonest as he was. There's a whole lot of lessons that he can teach us if we'll simply let it do the teaching. How about you, dear friend? Have you rendered obedience to the simple commands of the gospel? And are you at this moment on the high road to glory above, as a child of God, seeking first the kingdom of God and His righteousness? If not, then you can remedy that situation today by obeying the simple commands of the gospel so that you might be added by the Lord to His church. Maybe in times past, that describes just exactly what you've done. But you've wandered away and you need to be restored to a right relationship with God. It's for that purpose that a song has been selected to encourage you through its words. Would you come while we stand and while we sing?